She smiled while they slid the bill across the table. I thought it was just dinner, until I discovered the hidden camera, and months later, the truth everyone tried to bury came back for them. We'd been together 3 years. I'm Mark, she's Jenna. It was a Friday, 8:10 p.m., at our favorite Italian on 5th Street, the place with the crooked wine rack and garlic that always smells like home. I thought dinner would be quiet, just us. Instead, it began like an audition. We sat under a low lamp. Jenna's phone was face down on the table, and her braid rested over one shoulder. I ordered the rigatoni we'd shared on our first date because some things felt safe. She reached for my hand, a brief touch that felt ordinary. She smiled the way she usually did, easy and private, and for a moment I relaxed. Her sister was already there, tucked into the booth like she belonged. I hadn't expected Jules, but she acted like this was normal. Midway through the second course, Jules dropped a line as casual as a forkful of bread. If his job disappeared tomorrow, how long would you stay? No one banged a gavel. The question landed and waited. Jenna laughed it off at first. Come on, Jules, that's hypothetical. But the laughter faded. I noticed, too late, a small rectangle of glass half hidden under the napkins. A camera, plain and mechanical. My stomach tightened in a way I didn't have words for. The questions started small. Curious probes about rent and savings, remarks about ambition that sounded practiced. A cousin offered a tale about someone who'd settled and regretted it. Each comment looked innocent on its own. Stacked together, they felt deliberate, like the slow building of pressure. I answered without theatrics. Short sentences. Honest ones. I'll figure it out. We'll adapt. It was everything I believed and nothing I thought would outrage anyone at a family table. Still, each answer seemed to be measured by more than kindness. I felt watched in a way that made my cheeks warm. Then Jenna's father spoke. He had been quiet all night. Now he leaned in and said, "No games. We want to know if he's serious." The tone was precise, a kind of inspection that has nothing to do with conversation. He didn't look at me like someone trying to understand. He looked like someone classifying an animal in a cage. Jenna's face changed. I could not read it. She turned her plate and pushed it away, fingers tracing the rim as if she were avoiding something on the surface. "You always say you'll figure it out," she said, voice low. It did not sound like an accusation so much as an inventory. I kept my voice steady. "I do. Words are cheap," she answered. "Then tell me what you want," I said. She did not answer. The silence was not empty. It carried the weight of expectation and plans I had never known about. Around us, voices moved on. The waiter clearing plates, a glass clink, while the real motion was under the table, in the way eyes tracked my face and the camera recorded small things. The flare of a nostril, the pause before a joke. At one point, I realized the napkin had been adjusted so the lens faced me. They had staged this. The thoughts sank in with a cold clarity. I had not been invited to dinner. I had been summoned to an evaluation. After dinner, we walked out into the cold. The street was quiet, wet pavement catching reflections from neon signs and headlights. Jenna walked beside me, but a few steps ahead, hands tucked in her coat pockets. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then, under the yellow glow of a streetlight, she stopped. "They wanted proof," she said softly. I stared at her, confused. Proof of what? She didn't look at me. That you were serious. That we were real. Her voice shook, not from the cold. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to perform." It took a moment for that to land. Proof. Not love. Not happiness. Proof. As if a relationship were a courtroom. I felt something close to anger, but quieter, deeper. "You set me up," I said. It wasn't shouted. Just stated like a fact that hurt. Jenna's eyes flicked up. "They're practical," she said. "They think love is a risk we can't afford." "And you agreed?" She looked away again. "I didn't want to lose what we had." "You lost it the second you turned it into a test." Her eyes filled with something unreadable. Guilt, maybe. "I'm sorry. That one word should have mattered." But it felt small, like trying to patch a hole in a sinking boat. We argued in broken lines. "You should have told me. I didn't want you to feel judged." I was judged, and I just wanted to protect us. Protect. The words sounded hollow. From what, love? Reality? 2 days later, she left a note on the counter. Not a message, not a call, a note. Her handwriting was neat and careful, like someone trying not to feel too much while writing it. "I can't be the one who chose family over you. I need time." No explanation, no return date. Just time. I held that paper until the edges softened in my hands. Then I left it where she'd see it when she came back, folded on the kitchen table beside the house key. The next morning, I packed a small bag and left the apartment for a week. The air outside felt heavy but honest. Inside that place, everything smelled like what used to be: her shampoo, the coffee we brewed too strong, the scent of tomato sauce on Sundays. I needed distance to remember who I was before their questions. 2 weeks later, I saw her family smiling in a fundraiser post online. The caption said, "Proud of our daughter's choices." It didn't take long before I started getting messages from people we knew, friends asking if we were okay, others saying they'd heard something happened. That's when I learned it hadn't just been one dinner. There had been other tests, job offers that never existed, strangers complimenting me in public just to see how I'd react. They'd been studying me. That broke something deeper than the relationship. It broke the quiet trust that love should sit on. Still, I went back to the apartment. I cleaned it from top to bottom, vacuumed the baseboards, lined up the throw pillows just how she liked them. Then I left again, not out of spite, but because I wanted to leave something intact, something clean. I didn't want to end this the way they expected, angry. When I closed the door behind me, the click felt final. Winter came fast that year, the kind that settles in your bones and turns silence into company. I didn't hear from her. Not a call, not a text. 2 months passed before I heard from Jenna again. It was a quiet Sunday morning, gray skies, cold coffee, and the kind of silence that lingers too long. Then my phone buzzed. "Hey, can we talk?" Coffee. No apology. Just that. Maybe I should have ignored it, but curiosity can be a strange kind of gravity. I said yes. Maybe I wanted closure, or maybe I just wanted to see if she'd changed. The cafe was small, with steamed-up windows and the smell of roasted beans clinging to the air. She sat by the window, wearing that beige coat she had on the day she said we needed time. When she saw me, she smiled, tight, polite. But there was someone else sitting beside her. Her mother. "Mark," Jenna said softly, "thanks for coming." Her mom smiled like this was a job interview. "We appreciate you taking the time." We. The word landed heavily. Turns out, this wasn't coffee. It was another meeting, another discussion, as they put it. They wanted to talk about rebuilding trust with the family. I stared at them both. "You mean your trust?" I said, "because I never broke mine." Her mother stirred her latte like she was mixing her thoughts. "You must understand, Jenna needs someone stable. Someone who plans. Marriage isn't just about love, Mark. It's about foundations." "And manipulation?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't answer. Jenna reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled back. "If this is another test," I said, "I'm done taking exams." Jenna's voice was small. "It's not a test. It's a discussion." Her mother's face didn't move. It was clear this was another evaluation. So I stood up. "You've made your choice," I said. "You can keep testing people until you run out of hearts to grade." I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just left. That night, I thought it was over for good, until my phone rang again. It was Jules, her sister, the same one who filmed that dinner. Her voice sounded uneasy, like someone who'd finally run out of excuses. "I shouldn't be telling you this," she started, "but Mom had a bet." I sat up. "What do you mean?" "She said you'd either walk away in pride or stay to prove yourself. Either way, she'd know your type. She called it a character study." My throat tightened. "You're serious?" "Yeah. Jenna didn't even know the full thing until after you left. When she found out, she broke down. But she still couldn't stand up to Mom. Then she hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, listening to the empty room hum around me. It wasn't about love. It never was. It was about control, about seeing how far they could push before I'd break. For the first time, I stopped feeling angry and started feeling done. Not defeated, just finished with whatever game they were playing. I turned off my phone and didn't turn it back on until the morning. That night, I promised myself something. I wouldn't try to prove my worth again. Not to them. Not to anyone who thought love needed measuring. By spring, I'd moved to a new city, Columbus. Fresh apartment, new job, same black coffee in the mornings. It wasn't a full restart, but it was quiet, and quiet was enough. I'd stopped checking Jenna's socials after New Year's. Some wounds close faster when you stop picking at them. Then, one night, a message request appeared on my screen. "I owe you the truth." It was Jenna. Her first voice note came through at 11:37 p.m. Her tone was uneven, like she'd practiced what to say and still couldn't hold it steady. "I didn't know they were actually filming us," she said. "I thought it was just dinner. I thought it was family pressure, not a setup. When I found out, I quit my job at her firm. I moved out." She said her mother's company had been running something called a relationship assessment project. The dinner, the hidden camera, all part of a study on how partners react to stress and pressure. My responses had become data. She called it a project. I called it betrayal dressed in research. "I wanted to tell you sooner," she said. "But I was scared. I didn't know how to fix what I let happen." She said she finally understood what love wasn't. That it wasn't something you graded, or measured, or tested until it broke. When she asked, "Do you still think about me?" I paused longer than I wanted to. "Sometimes," I said, "but not the way you hope." There was a long silence before her next message. "They thought they could measure love like an experiment," she said. But experiments always have consequences. That was the last thing she sent for weeks. By then, I'd learned to live without waiting for her name to pop up again. Days started to blur. Work, gym, quiet dinners at home. My peace didn't come fast, but it came. I was learning to exist without replaying old arguments in my head. Until another message arrived. This one wasn't from Jenna. It was from Jules. Mark, you might want to see this. Mom's project got leaked. I opened the link she sent, and the headline made my pulse skip. Corporate ethics scandal. Relationship experiment raises privacy concerns. It was her mother's company. The same one that turned my dinner into a data point. There were details about hidden recordings, manipulated interviews, and unwitting participants. They'd been testing couples without consent for years. The report listed multiple cases. My name wasn't mentioned, but one image caught my attention. A blurry still frame from that Italian restaurant on 5th Street. My face was blurred. Jenna wasn't. I sat there for a long time, the light from my phone reflecting off the coffee table. It was surreal, watching what had broken me become a public scandal. The truth was finally out, but it didn't bring satisfaction. Just confirmation that I'd been right all along. Still, part of me wondered how Jenna was taking it. The exposure didn't just end a project. It was about to unravel everything her family had built their name on. I didn't reach out and need to. 2 weeks later, the fallout hit everywhere. Jenna's mother was fired from her executive position. News outlets called it emotional entrapment research. Psychology boards labeled it unethical behavioral experimentation. Every headline carried a new version of the same truth. Their family had built success on other people's pain. And Jenna? She became collateral damage. The internet never forgets faces, and hers was now attached to those leaked dinner clips. Her career was over before it began. Friends who used to crowd her comment sections disappeared. Her old company cut ties. The fiancé she'd gotten engaged to months after leaving me, a wealthy consultant her family had adored, walked away too, reportedly the day after the article dropped. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vengeful either. Just done. Because karma didn't need my help. It worked quietly, efficiently, in its own time. One night, she texted again. Jenna, I'm sorry for everything. I can't fix what I let happen, but I wanted you to know I finally stood up to them. Me, I believe you. But believing doesn't mean returning. There was a long pause. Then one last message came through. I never deserved how much you loved me. I didn't answer. Some messages are meant to end things, not reopen them. Life moved on. 3 months later, I was in Chicago for a conference. After my presentation, I grabbed coffee in the lobby and felt a soft tap on my shoulder. I turned, and there she was. Jenna. Shorter hair now, no makeup, no polished smile. She looked smaller, not in stature, but in spirit. Mark, she said quietly. I didn't know you'd be here. I nodded. Guess we both needed the same coffee. We stood there in the kind of silence that feels heavier than words. I'm proud of you, she said finally. You actually did what you said, you figured it out. I smiled faintly. Guess the test worked after all. She let out a small laugh, the kind that sounds tired. You passed. I failed. I didn't correct her. I just said, I hope you're okay, and turned to leave. But before I reached the door, she called after me. Mark, you were never the one who needed to prove commitment. We were. I looked back once. She stood there by the window, rain streaking down the glass, her reflection blurring into the crowd behind her. I nodded once, and then I walked out. That night, back in my hotel room, I sat by the window and watched the lights flicker over the city. For the first time, I felt peace, not victory, not bitterness, just quiet understanding. Love isn't supposed to be a test. It's a choice. You don't make someone earn it like a prize. You give it because it's real. And when you turn love into a test, you don't expose the other person's weakness. You reveal your own. They lost the man who would have never stopped choosing them.